It's really good.
Yeah. So I, of course, don't know what Tinder is. I'm going to have some vague knowledge of what Tinder is. But I am also I'm not on Gmail. Are you on Gmail? I'm not.
That's how you get email. What server are you on? What do you get your email on?
AOL. I'm the last of the.
What is this? 1947? D-Day?
I'm on AOL. Me and everybody else over the age of 80 is still on AOL. I'm on that.
Man.
I'm not on the Hulu, or the Facebook, nothing. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Saints look bad, the football team looks good, and Cleveland looks for a new nickname. But we begin today with the Buffalo Bills easily defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, 26-15 in the rain and snow of Buffalo. Pittsburgh, which was 11-0, is now 11-2 and one game behind Kansas City in the AFC. Buffalo is now 10-3, the third best record in football. So, Wilbon, is this a story about Buffalo ascending or Pittsburgh descending?
Tony, like a lot of these things, it may be both, but I cared yesterday as I watched that game about Buffalo. Buffalo playing in a little bit of snow, not a lot of snow like it used to be in the old days in December, but when you have that team, Tony, I can only imagine what it'd be like with that stadium full, with the way that community loves the Bills. And you know this, you've been there enough times over the years.
Sure.
And I look at Buffalo, and they can do a lot of everything, starting with their quarterback. All right? I'm not going to get wild with predictions and say he needs to be the MVP or he's going to the Hall of Fame. But in this moment, okay, he can do everything that is required of a quarterback that needs to play in Buffalo. They can play in weather. You're right. They can play from behind if they have to. They can run the ball with the lead and play. They got enough defense to scare you that way. This is about the Buffalo Bills being maybe the second best team in the AFC to me.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because I will answer the question by saying this is about Pittsburgh descending. Even when they were 11-0, I had doubts about them because historically the other 11-0 teams, Pittsburgh's point differential was really rather marginal. I mean, I look at them now as a team that can't run the football at all. They pass all the time. Let me get the numbers right.
Too many passing, you're right. Too much passing.
Roethlisberger leads the NFL in pass attempts. In his last 5 games, he's averaging 47 passes a game. I look at Kansas City as significantly better than Pittsburgh because they've got, I know they don't win by wide margins, but they've got this gear they get to when they need it and they win games. To me, Mike, the receivers now on the Steelers, they drop the ball, drives Tomlin crazy.
Yeah.
To me, the Steelers look right now like a team that has hit the wall.
Maybe, but I think there's also a little bit of time to come back. And when you get your best running back and arguably your best lineman back, maybe it takes a couple weeks. And Pittsburgh had played like 3 games in, 12 days or whatever obscene, how little it was, Tony, between games. But Buffalo doesn't impress you? Everything you watched last night was about the Steelers?
Buffalo impresses me. I like the quarterback. He's a really good athlete. I like Stephon Diggs. Do you know the last time that Buffalo won a playoff game? Do you know this?
Was it with Jim Kelly? Was it like 25 years ago?
It's 25 years ago. So to me, to hop on, like sort of hopping on with Cleveland, you go, I got to see a little bit more.
I thought we saw enough last night. Yeah, look, there's still a few weeks left in the season, but I was impressed with the Bills. The Eagles coach says, reluctantly to me, that they're sticking with Jalen Hurts. The rookie quarterback led Philly to an upset of the Saints yesterday. He didn't throw a ton, but he ran for 106 yards, took no negative plays against one of the NFL's top-ranked defenses. That said, after the game, head coach Doug Peterson said the win wasn't about just one guy. Tony, tell me you're not with that junk.
Well, in the abstract, I believe things are not about just one guy. But specifically yesterday, I thought it was about one guy. I thought Jalen Hurts won that game. Neither you nor I are sure that he has an NFL arm. Here are the numbers. He had 167 yards passing and, as you say, 106 yards running. But he won that game. When was the last time Carson Wentz won a game? Don't even bother to look it up. No. It's November 1st. It's November 1st that Carson Wentz, it doesn't work for him right now. If whatever you want to say about Jalen Hurts, at least say this, that Philadelphia functioned better on offense with him than you have seen in a while with Carson Wentz.
And Doug Peterson didn't want to say that. Doug Peterson sounded like a scold, and I was angry listening to Doug Peterson. I said to you in real time, okay, let's not turn this into, exaggeration Monday and make Jalen Hurts Joe Montana. You don't need to do that. But Jalen Hurts didn't get sacked yesterday, playing behind an offensive line that you would think was the worst in football. It's not close to that. Jalen Hurts. Here's what Carson Wentz does routinely, Tony, or had done since November 1st and before November 1st. Fumbles the ball, gets sacked, throws interceptions, and looks incompetent back there. Not like a starting quarterback. Not like a guy who had been proclaimed one of the top 100 players in the league all summer long. Okay? I am tired, as you know, of hearing about Carson Wentz, who was first overrated and now not worthy of being a starting quarterback. So there's that. And so if Doug Peterson is, sulking because Jalen Hurts has come in, and by the way, the GM there, picking Jalen Hurts seems to be a pretty good thing. Somebody there must have suspected that Carson Wentz was radically overrated and perhaps not a starting quarterback. Because this kid, I don't know how good he is, but he's a damn sight better than Carson Wentz.
So let's get to a couple of numbers that you might like. You mentioned that they had no negative plays, no sacks. In fact, he was pressured 14 times, Hurts, and they managed to gain over 80 yards while that happened. With Hurts, the Eagles average 6.3 yards per play. With Wentz, they average 4.8. And for context, 4.8 is averaged by the Bengals and 6.3 is averaged by the Packers. Shout out to Hembo on this. I think you have to stay with Jalen Hurts in the short term and maybe down the road, and you're going to have to eat all that money, perhaps, with Carson Wentz that you paid him.
Let me just say quickly.
Well,
shout outs to Hembo. Are we doing get up now?
Hembo.
You and Greeny tag teaming? All right, I'm just asking.
Hembo, these stats come from him. They don't come from me or from you.
I know they don't come from you. We don't pretend they come from me because I don't rely on them.
They don't. Somebody has to win the NFC East, I think. Now it looks like the Washington football team will. They beat the 49ers yesterday with a superb defensive effort led by rookie Chase Young, who was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Young caused one fumble, then picked up another fumble and scored. And they also got a pick 6. Washington didn't do anything offensively, but didn't need to. Wilbon, I know you love defense, so is it time to take the WFT seriously?
Yeah, I took him seriously coming into this game, Tony. And you mentioned the big rookie, Chase Young. But also, let's mention Montez Sweat and John Bostic. And there are more people to mention, but we'll start with them. Because their front seven could be as good as anybody's front seven. I know there are teams that would argue with that, but that front seven is tremendous. That defense leads that team. And when you don't have to score an offensive touchdown anywhere and you can win the game, it says you have a defense that can keep you in it. I'm done talking about the NFC East being bad. It doesn't matter anymore. I know the Giants slipped up yesterday, but Philadelphia got a shot in the arm from a rookie quarterback. Dallas even won, for what that's worth. That narrative is gone now. The Washington football team is going to get in the playoffs, and they can beat somebody in the playoffs, at least one somebody, Tony, and I think you agree with that.
So let's get to the numbers. They are 6th in points allowed and 4th in rushing yards allowed. Over the last 4 games, and they've won them all, they're only allowing 14 points a game. I mean, where does this come from? I think it comes from the fact that Ron Rivera and his defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, played defense in the league.
At a high level.
On a pretty high level.
At a high level.
On a pretty high level. And that matters to them. Now, what is their problem? Their problem is quarterback.
Yep.
Alex Smith went out yesterday with a calf injury to the bad leg. The bad leg that has had 3,000 surgeries already. If there's something truly wrong there, they're in trouble because they go to Dwayne Haskins, who Ron Rivera earlier in the year didn't like enough to not only not start him, but demote him to 3rd string. So this is a big opportunity for Haskins to show that he was worthy of being a first-round pick that he was. And what do they got left? I got 3 games left. Here we go. Seattle, Carolina, and Eagles. Seattle's a really tough game. But if they win 2 of those, they're 1 game up on the Giants. But if you fall back into a tie, because they've lost to the Giants twice, they would lose the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Tony, this is interesting, this whole quarterback situation. I mean, if Haskins doesn't recognize that this is his chance, he's got a chance now, right? Even if he's back in the backup role again next week, when you've got a guy who's had the serious injury he has, and you're a young player, You know these teammates. You know they're looking to you to say, how good is this kid? If you can't take advantage of that, that's a sad situation for him to come into the league with this much expectation, play for his hometown team, and not be able to sort of pick it up from here and help them across the finish line.
You've got them winning a playoff game.
I'm saying, let me ask you something. Who in the NFC is so damn good that they can't lose a playoff game?
I'm just trying to pin you down.
I think the Washington football team, once they get in the playoffs, can win a playoff game. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a break.
Didn't the Eagles just beat the New Orleans Saints yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. That answers that question.
Good job out of you. Let's take a break. Coming up, Florida's head coach, another Wilbon pal, said the shoe toss that cost his team was a football play. Is he right about that?
No pal of mine. And we had a slew of firings across college football. Were they justified?
So Washington has beaten Pittsburgh and San Francisco 2 in a row. Those are pretty good teams.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
I'm just looking at not even who they beat, but...
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Bullet Bourbon, highly awarded high rye whisk part of Happy Hour.
By the way, send me some of that. It's mail time. Thoughtful answers to obvious questions. Let me see what is first.
A lot of holiday decorations in the attic. I'm impressed by. You didn't put those up, did you?
No, Tracy put them up. They're beautiful, aren't they?
It looks good.
Got the menorah, got the Christmas stuff. Are you with Dan Mullen that the shoe toss was a football play?
That's the dumbest, most offensive thing I've heard coming out of the football weekend of college and the pros. I mean, you're going to get off the field here, and a kid takes a shoe and throws it 20-some yards? They should have penalized them 30 yards and made the kick closer. I mean, that's just so dumb. There's no words for it. And then a coach, publicly or privately, you better not defend it or sound like on any level it's okay. So that's just offensively stupid to say.
So let me just deal this way with Dan Mullen to another issue. Dan Mullen said this after the game, and I'm quoting, I guess the best thing to do would have been to play less games because you seem to get rewarded for not playing this year in college football. That's an obvious shot at Ohio State. The best thing to do would have been to beat LSU like everybody else has done this year, especially since you were at home in that opportunity. So now you have to ask yourself, Florida's out now because they've got 2 losses.
They're done. Get out.
If somebody drops, if Clemson drops, for example, what's next? Which team? Is it Texas A&M?
Texas A&M and
Is it Cincinnati?
Those are my 2.
Just spare me USC. I don't want to hear about USC.
Not USC. Texas A&M and Cincinnati, to me, are the on-deck teams. You're not disagreeing with that, are you?
I'm not, but I'm worried because I watch these predictable or predictor indexes that say that USC at 5-0, USC has a 50% chance of getting in. USC beat Arizona State by 1, Arizona by 4. Their combined record is 1-7 because they played each other.
USC,
I don't want to see USC
not
unless
USC.
Lori Loughlin is there. I don't want to see it.
She's not going to be there either.
Nail this.
Gus Malzahn, Kevin Sumlin, and Lovie Smith.
Man.
He's yours.
Man.
All got fired this weekend.
Man.
Is it justified?
Lovie Smith's last appearance as the Illinois coach, as it turns out, will have been against Northwestern. We don't run the ball particularly well the last few weeks, and I think we went 4-14 against Illinois, and that upset some people. All right, so we're going to set Lovie. I thought Lovie, having won 6 games last year and some road games this year, I thought Lovie should have come back. That's me. Now let's go to the state of Arizona. Oh, my God. You give up 70 in state to a guy who last I checked was your buddy. I mean, I don't understand. When you heard the score, didn't you think or read it? Did you not think it was an error when you saw or heard the score?
My first reaction to that score was, oh my, what is Herm doing?
What's Herm done?
What is he doing rolling up 70?
I don't know. But if you go over and you lose to your in-state rival by 63, it's hard
Can't defend it.
And what's happened? I don't understand what's happened at Arizona. Like, I don't understand how they become the doormat of the Pac-12, however many games they play. And it's not like Arizona State had been a powerhouse lately.
Let me get to Gus Malzahn for a second, because Gus Malzahn's numbers are terrific. He's 39-27 in the SEC. He's 68-35 at Auburn, and he's 3-5 against Nick Saban. Nobody in that league has beaten Nick Saban more than once, and only one guy. I guess at Auburn, because they did this to Gene Chizik after he won the national championship. Yeah. I'm told that boosters come in and spread money around, so there's $21 million going to Gus Malzahn. So Merry Christmas to him. But this is insane.
We got to ask Charles. We got to ask Charles.
How are you firing him? What are you doing?
Wow.
Enough email. Let's take one last break, but still to come, a happy trails situation for Cleveland's nickname.
And were the Raiders right to dump their DC with 3 games left in the season? Yeah, the Auburn thing, this is what they do.
How do you do that?
They don't win a national championship, and so you got to go. We're going to fire you. And they're not going to win one in the next 3 or 4 years, are they? Maybe they will.
Bulleit Bourbon, highly awarded high rye whiskey. Enjoy responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 23rd birthday, DK Metcalf. The DK stands for DeKalin. He is having a breakout season at wide receiver for Seattle. Metcalf already has 1,180 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns this season. Second in the league in yards, 5th in touchdowns. Metcalf has begun talking about how he and Russell Wilson will go after the NFL record 114 touchdowns between a quarterback and receiver duo held by Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. It is a daunting record to chase, but we know Metcalf can chase. This play, where he ran down Arizona DB Budda Baker, is a candidate for best play of the year.
22.64 miles an hour. They may be the most prolific, you mentioned earlier, Peyton Manning, but Joe Montana to Jerry Rice. With all apologies to Steve Young, who we here at PTI love dearly, Joe Montana to Jerry Rice is the greatest passing combination ever. Are you going to disagree with me?
I'm not going to disagree with that, although some people might have said Unitas to Berry is right there with them. Speaking of Marvin Harrison, happy anniversary, Marvin Harrison. On this day 18 years ago, the Hall of Fame Colts receiver set the NFL single-season record for receptions with 2 games remaining. Harrison finished with 143 catches, which lasted until last year when Michael Thomas of the Saints raised it to 149. As said, Harrison and Peyton Manning are the most productive passing and catching duo ever. They have the most completions, 953, the most touchdowns, 114, and the most yards, 12,766. Next in touchdowns are Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski with 95. And then, Mike, Steve Young and Jerry Rice, not Joe Montana. Steve Young and Jerry Rice with 92.
Well, that's why I had to go into that with an apology to our dear friend Steve Young. But I'm just saying, but Tony, they throw the football so much more now. You mentioned earlier Unitas to Raymond Berry. I mean, Bradshaw to Swan and Stallworth, they were great. They weren't as prolific. People need to, know the difference.
Happy trails to the Cleveland Indians. The New York Times reports that after 105 years and having already dumped the caricaturish Chief Wahoo, the Indians will be no more. Unlike ownership in Washington, which had to be dragged kicking and screaming to get rid of Redskins, Cleveland ownership reached the conclusion to change its nickname without defending it irrationally. Paul Dolan, the owner of the Indians, said today they will keep the name for just one more season. Maybe in 2022 we will have a Cleveland baseball team like we have a Washington football team. One wonders what will become of the Chiefs, the Braves, and the Blackhawks. Will those nicknames be considered unfit?
Tony, each one of those 3 teams has said so far they have no plans to change the name, and each one of those 3 teams seems to have been involved in deep engagement locally and regionally to talk to Native American people about what it is they want to see. And that, Tony, that sentiment to me, and I believe to you, should carry the day.
Absolutely. You and I should not necessarily have a say in those. We should not. Omissions. The Pac-12 replaced Washington with Oregon in Friday's conference title game. What? And the ACC announced Northwestern AD Jim Phillips as its new commissioner. Wilbon, you've lost them. What happened?
Hurts me deeply, but let me just say, the ACC, which doesn't even deserve Jim Phillips, doesn't know what a great man and a great AD, the best AD in America that they're getting. So good luck to Jim Phillips, who I love dearly and appreciate all the things he did for Purple. All of it.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Raiders fired defensive coordinator Paul Gunther after getting clubbed by the Colts. Was he to blame?
Yes, you work for the Raiders, you know you're going to get blamed for something, probably publicly at some point if you're not winning a Super Bowl. Vikings kicker Dan Bailey missed 3 field goals plus a PAT in the 12-point loss to the Buccaneers. Your thoughts?
The job is to kick it through the uprights. If you can't do that, it's a gots to go. I'm sorry. Kevin Durant had 15 and Kyrie Irving had 18 for the Nets last night. Are you impressed?
Not just with them, Tony, but the Nets are loaded with shooters and ball handlers and defenders and all-around players and a couple of stars. Aren't you going to go back to rooting for the Nets, a team of your youth?
No, not me.
Okay, all righty. The Jets, another team of your youth. 0-13 after being crushed by the Hawks. Defend your boys.
They're indefensible. They all have to go. Last one, Monday Night Football, Ravens at Browns. Who you got?
I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, you hated them until about week 10. Good for you. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I can start hating them again tomorrow. We'll see. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Now to get you set for Monday Night Football. Here, Susie Culver and the Countdown Crew.